Well, good morning. We're here with Gage. This is episode 4.
Can't believe this is going by fast.
It does. Certainly does. So it's been fun, too. It's been fun to bring awareness to, to the show, to the listeners. It just kind of flows well.
It does. It's Friday and everybody's happy it's Friday, so we're ready for the weekend.
Amen to that. Definitely happy it's Friday. Maybe we should take this show on, like the Joe Rogan Experience level.
There you go. We can try it. Let's do it.
Good times, man. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? What a way to make a living.
I don't think there'd be a better one.
No, not really. I agree. So how you doing, brother?
Doing good. Been a busy week and got some events tonight and got an event tomorrow. So, I think tonight we're going to be at the fair, the Butte-Silver Bow Fair down at the Civic Center and meet with the 4-H kids and their families tonight.
Nice.
And tomorrow we've got the Serbian church is having a food fair, and so we're gonna get out there and meet some people tomorrow.
I don't think I've ever had Serbian food. I might have to go and change that.
It's gonna be a first for me too, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. And then of course I've got my rodeo grounds duties I got to do tomorrow to get ready for the big rodeo coming up here in a couple weeks here. So I'm excited for that, and we're going to get the ground ready for that and make it a safe rodeo for all our animals and cowboys and cowgirls.
Well, definitely, and appreciate all your hard work and effort out there. I know that you're frequently helping out the folks out there at the rodeo and helping out the arena grounds. So
it's been fun. It's been fun. I've been glad to help them. So whatever I can do, I'm available for whatever they need.
Yep. Well, I understand the rodeo's had a big, big turnaround as far as it's been 13 years, I think, since the last event.
I'm not sure of the time frame. I know it's been a while. There hasn't been one since I've been here.
Okay. And then there's a new one, the first one rather, in those many years, coming up on the 23rd through the 25th of this month. So
right.
That's great. We're looking forward to it, and we really, my family and I are really big supporters of rodeo and anything that we can do out there. So that's going to be great.
Well, what other sporting event, are they saying prayers before the event, and then everybody's singing along to the national anthem and the sportsmanship between the athletes? They're all out there helping each other. They're competing against one another, but they're all out there supporting one another as well. So it's a good time, and it'll be a lot of fun this year, and I think it'll be a good economic boost for Butte-Silver Bow.
Well said. I think rodeo is the last fundamental holdout ever since NASCAR went woke.
Yeah, they haven't changed. Rodeo is still the same. Yeah.
And God bless them for that. We love that. So, and to that point of the rodeo, there's a new nonprofit organization that's managing and helping to develop and turn the Butte Vigilante Rodeo and to restore it back to its once previous glory, right? And that's headed up. The VP for that is Ashley Massard, and she wanted me to put her number out there too. If anybody wants to call her, have a conversation with her, talk about donations, scholarships. There's a lot of great things that we're all doing with that as far as scholarships and really bringing in a new generation of rodeo fans.
Right. Ashley's been wonderful to work with. I've got to work with her on scheduling for us to get the grounds watered, to get the grounds worked. She's put in a lot of work getting sponsorships for the rodeo, and I think they've got a 5-year agreement with the PRCA, which is the Professional Rodeo Cowboy Association. Mm-hmm. So to hold the event here in Butte. So with her working it, I think we'll get that extended out. These 5 years will go really, really well, and I think we'll get back to having a full-time rodeo here in Butte.
Let's hope so. I believe so as well. She's a hard-working lady.
Yeah, she's got her hands full, but she's doing a great job with it.
She grinds it out every day. I talk to her, and she's just out there trying to make this happen.
Well, let's put her phone number out there then so people can contact her.
Let's do that. So y'all reach out to Ashley if you want to find out more ways you can help, because this is a community. This is our community, and it's our rodeo. So everybody get involved if you have it in your heart to do so. Give Ashley a call at course area code 406-490-8498.
Right, and you'll be surprised. There'll be people don't understand in the rodeo circuit, but there'll be people from all over the United States that will be entering this rodeo. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be Butte locals. There will be some, but you might even see some big names enter this rodeo. So, and if they're not this year, once they hear about it, we do it right, they'll start coming, and boy, do they draw a crowd. So
oh yeah. Well, the arena seats 4,000 people, so we're gonna need to hit that number or beyond here by maybe the next
I think
year.
we can do it. With that, let's talk about some law enforcement stuff.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So, what do we got going on as far as any updates on the town? Anything you've heard about?
No, it's been this week was seemed to be a pretty slow week. As far as news being fed to me. Of course, I get some. There's just some things that we don't talk about yet. We've got, like I said last week, we do have an officer that is going to be coming on the show here in the next couple of weeks, and I've spoken to 2 former officers that had been here for over 10 years when they left the department, and they both agreed to come on the show as well. So that way it's not just me and you talking about some of the issues that are going on within the law enforcement community here. You're going to hear it straight from current officers and former officers, some of the problems and some of the corrections that need to be made. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear from anybody in our law enforcement community that could add to, collaborate, or if they have anything to say contradicting what we said.
Right.
It's an open forum.
Right, absolutely.
So,
I mean, I'm a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this and going to ask me why I did it, but I saw my opponent had posted on Facebook a couple days ago that it was his 35th anniversary from when he started at the police department, and why I don't agree with a lot of the things that he's doing currently within the department. He still deserves a shout out. When somebody gives 35 years of their life to community service, that's a big deal, and whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, I hope he doesn't reach 36 years, but still 35 years is something to be proud of, and I think it needs to be recognized.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this isn't Washington D.C. politics where we got to sling mud at each other and throw, just this is class. We need to have class here, and I think that you do. So yes, definitely a big shout out to your opponent.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That is a milestone. But that being said, all things must come to an end.
Yeah, we need some changes.
And we need some changes nonetheless. Respect or not, we still need changes, right? So, quiet time as far as quiet local news. That's probably a good thing. Good week. Yeah. I did see a lot of new strange faces in town this week.
Well, from what I've been told, that there's been a dump off.
Right.
And that, which basically means that other people's problems were dumped off in Butte, and now they're becoming Butte's problems. And so that's typical. That's something we need to change, and not allow for Butte to be other cities' dumping grounds.
Right. Well, it was. I can attest to seeing about maybe 4 new faces in town.
Well, it's not uncommon for officers to reach out and tell me, "Hey, we got a new group of people that we haven't seen before that are now causing us some issues." Right. And so, I mean, it happens, and we'll address it when we get in there, and we'll try to get that to cease and desist.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure I speak for most folks that we're all looking forward to seeing a little tidier streets, let's say.
Yeah, it's our town's getting out of control, and again, I can't emphasize that enough, that we can put an end to this, and it doesn't have to be this way, and we're not going to let it continue to be this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think I know we've talked about this in our other previous casts, but shut off the drug supply, or at least slow it down. I mean, there's no way to completely snuff out drugs altogether, but to significantly minimize it to where it's, almost a marginal statistic is all that's left of it. Obviously those folks would leave,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
they don't have a source anymore, and they don't have any more refuge from. And refuge comes in the form of like we just look the other way and let them lay
Right.
in that vacant lot out in the open, or squat on somebody's vacant home or building.
Yeah, you get rid of the drugs and you make it where it's difficult to get. Those people are going to go elsewhere where it's easy and they're not being harassed constantly, for having drugs or being on drugs, and they're going to go to another town. And it's you can't turn we've turned a blind eye to it for so long now that it's going to be a long road to recover. And but we're going to start day one, and we're going to make our presence known. And one of the first things that I'm going to do is promote somebody to a public information officer position. And so that person's going to be communicating with the press, with the public on a regular basis, letting them know, what we're doing, and where we're focusing our efforts, the successes that we're having in getting the drugs off the streets of Butte. And and with that, we're going to change some things within probably investigations too. I think that we need at least, again, I'm going to say definitely one, but probably two detectives to be specialized in narcotics investigations. And then I probably want to have those that are focused on property crimes, those that are focused on personal crimes, would be assaults, batteries, homicides, somebody involved in sex crimes, that's their specialty. We'll send them the trainings to become experts in that field. That will put an end to the we're not going to put an end to sex trafficking, because that's going to continue to happen, but we're going to put a big dent in it in Butte-Silver Bow. Mm-hmm. And we got to have somebody specialized that's their focus, that's all they're working on, whether it be the internet sex crimes. Because let's be honest, do you see anybody getting arrested for child pornography? When you've got that much drugs in town and you have that much the sex crimes, you've got sex crimes involving children. Mm-hmm. As well, and it's not being reported because we're not seeing it. And those cases normally hit the news pretty quick, and that's hard to keep out of the press when you find somebody like that. And with the drugs, the sex trafficking, that's going on as well. Mm-hmm. And it goes on in every community.
Right.
And we need to get a handle on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, any community that has a high drug, trafficking and usage population statistics.
And it might be, we get our patrol force back, we get full on patrol, that we may have to have more investigators. I'm not sure that, dependent on, I think there's more crime here that's going to dictate that we may have to have more detectives than what we currently have. And we'll figure that out once we get in there and we see the actual crimes. It's really hard. I can go, get online and find crimes for other cities in Montana and figure out their clearance rates, what crimes are being reported. I can't find them. I mean, I look and look and look, and it's really hard to get a grasp on where these are being reported. We used to report to the local news. As soon as the FBI came out with their crime statistics, the news stations were calling us, wanting to know, well, your clearance rate was only 86% this year of all crimes. That doesn't happen here, and I don't know where those crimes get reported. I'm sure they're somewhere. It's just never addressed. So I would like to know, what are our clearance rates? Because with all the theft here, there's big theft rings that are in Butte.
Right.
Why aren't they ever being taken down? These things, and I just saw one a few months ago in Kansas City where it involved like more than a dozen departments were involved in this theft ring, taking down this theft ring operation. And there are several counties that, surrounding counties around Kansas City, and they all work really well together. And I just don't see it. It's happening here. We see all the theft that goes on every day in this city. Why, you know, where's the clearance on those crimes? You know, our city just deserves better. We deserve to be able to show this is what's happening here, this is what we're doing about it, and this is how we're solving these cases.
Well, I think that we both have love for this community. It's our community. And that's why we're here every week trying to bring awareness to the voters, to the people of the community of, you know, this is what needs to be done. You know, we need change, and we need to vote for change. And the opportunity is rapidly approaching the vote for change.
Yeah, we're getting
really
close. Yeah.
And, you know, that being said, you know, this community, who knows what we're going to see until you get the keys to go back in the back room. You know, once we get back behind the curtain, Lord knows what we're going to find out here, as far as not with necessarily with law enforcement, but look at all these, you know, sex offenders that you found. Look at all these internet sex crimes that you found that were never reported. I mean, you know as well as I do, if you write it off as lack of sufficient evidence, it's over. There's no follow up.
Right.
That's how you get rid of these things that you don't want to deal with.
Well, that's how you close some cases.
Right. You close the numbers, and then you also pad the numbers by doing that, because then the crime statistics with the FBI are based on your follow-up investigations, and when they're this meager finding of, oh, that was, you know, it became a he said, she said, or vice versa, then it just falls off and becomes a minor statistic and not a major crime statistic, and then the numbers thus get, you know, fluffed.
Right.
And then on the books, wow, Butte, Montana is just must be the lowest crime city on this part of the Milky Way.
Right.
You know, and you know, people, those of us that live here, it's our community, we know differently. I mean, this place is not hell on earth by any means. Right. It's not, you know, Detroit in 1980 or Baghdad or anything like that. It's a great community. It has some emergency tweakings that need to be made quickly.
Yeah, you show, like, if a victim then refuses to testify or something, or no longer wants to, well, that's a closed case. If the county attorney doesn't want to prosecute,
it's closed.
It's a closed case. So technically that makes it look like you solved the case, and that statistic wise shows that you solved that case.
You're killing it.
And so it's not really what's happening,
right?
You know, so it's a fluff the numbers, but I just like to see the numbers.
Right, I would love to see the numbers. I think we'll have our day where we'll see those numbers and have a real good idea, and that's where your PIO policies come in. There's a public information officer that you want to appoint. They're bridging the public awareness with your office.
Right.
They're keeping everybody in the game.
Yeah, everybody's got skin in the game.
Yeah,
you know, every citizen. You know, it's gonna be a community effort, and we're going to involve the community in everything we do to the extent we can. You know, in some cases you can't, you know, obviously, but we're going to
major investigations.
Right, we're gonna have the community involved in, you know, letting us know what they're seeing, letting us know what the problems that they're facing. You know, and I want everybody to be honest and say, you know, let us know where these drug houses are. You know, if you're seeing transactions take place in your neighbor's or right across the street from you, and nothing's ever being done, well, let me know, because I'll come put a plainclothes officer in your house, let them film the transactions going down, and we'll have officers a couple streets away take down the cars that are leaving, and we'll find drugs on them. And as soon as we do, we'll go ask for a search warrant. You know, you get enough cars leaving the house and they all have the same coke or meth or whatever, we'll go get a search warrant. And if we've got an officer that's watching us go down, it's going to be real easy to get a search warrant because we saw it.
Right.
And, you know, we'll come kick in the door and we'll get those people out of your neighborhood. And it's as easy as that. I mean, this is simple policing to get rid of these problems.
And talk about a 180 for the Butte community, for the Butte commerce, for everything, for tourism.
Oh, absolutely.
Growth, the whole night. I mean, right now, as you've all heard us talk in previous weeks, you know, we got a little bit of a shady reputation. Like one woman called it the armpit of Montana at one point. And, you know, we want to, obviously that can be changed so easy. And then let's give some other town that dubious honor.
Right.
And,
we don't want to hear, and our
change
community
ours.
is too
Right.
great for
No, I agree.
people to be thinking that.
It's time to pass the torch on that
Right.
one. And but yeah, I mean, it's the whole if the entire community gets involved, and they get their weekly updates, is here's what we did as a team, here's what we're doing as a community. It keeps everybody honest, and it's a lot harder to get away with being a criminal and making criminal decisions when the whole community is holding you accountable.
Right. The days of people complaining to me, and then of the drug activity, and then I asked, did you call the police? And then their response is always, no, because I called before and they don't do anything about it. So they just give up calling. You know, those days are going to be over. If you call us, we're going to take care of the problem. You know, we're going to come. Patrol's going to investigate it. If it needs a narcotics detective, we're going to have those, and we'll send them down there, and we will investigate, and we will take care of these problems. And how policing is done in every city that I know of. You know, that's how. You know, I just can't fathom it takes them 2 hours to get here. You know, to respond to the call, and if that's the case, if it's really taking 2 hours. Sometimes for officers, if calls are just backed up, well, then that tells us we need more officers. And, you know, then you have to ask for the money. But, you know, the community, if they see the police work being done and they see the progress we're making, and we go ask for more officers and we show them why, I'm betting they're not going to have a problem with forking out some extra tax dollars to help manage that. But right now, if you went and asked for more officers, you're going to say no, because nothing's being done with the ones you have. So, you know, you go show them this is the progress we're making with this set of officers. Now we need 2 or 3 more on each shift to make a bigger impact. They're a lot more likely to open their wallets up when they can see the results.
Of course, because they're investing in something that they can see the return on it.
Right.
Versus, why are we going to raise taxes to hire 2 more officers that we're not going to see in the street?
Right.
You know,
and we got to train the officers. You know, we have to invest. We have officers. We need to invest in the officers we do have to keep them, and you do that by getting them trained, getting them specialized. You know, they started back up the traffic unit. You know, where I come from, you take advanced accident investigation, or you go to accident reconstruction school, and if you're going to be a traffic officer in Butte, then you're going to be trained in how to work the accidents. You know, that's your job.
You're
going to get that training if that's what you want to do. You're going to become an accident investigator. If you know, we need a lot more training. The online training doesn't work. The online training that they did I've been told by several officers that the hours that they did for last year never got approved by post. So not only do they have to do last year's hours, they have to make them up, and they have to get them done by the end of the year, or the officers can lose their certification. So because they didn't complete their hours of this online training, well, they completed them, they just weren't approved to actually be counted towards hours for your post. And so now they have to redo those hours.
Is that something that's basically handled by the department's FTO that goes through and says, you know, it's been approved?
So,
or can these officers do it on their own accord?
No, they're told what training to take.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's a FTO, or, you know, they've got their field training officer. Whether they have a training program or somebody that's in charge of training, I don't know. That there will be. I mean, if there's
needs to be a training officer,
right, and that person's going to be
managing all that,
right, and making sure that the officers, we will get rid of online training. I mean, we may use it for a couple hours or something, but that's going away. We're going to send our officers to real training classes where they get hands-on training, which you know, let's talk about another point here. That you see, I get a little excited there.
There's some passion coming out.
Yeah, so. These officers that you have now, they haven't been to the range in over a year. And
talking about the gun range, not the driving range.
The gun range. So some of them, they haven't shot their guns in over a year now.
Yep.
And they haven't qualified to show that they're still proficient in the use of their firearms. I know since COVID, they haven't done any training other than shooting at a silhouette that's not moving. The officers aren't moving. They're stationary, and they've done no moving shooting training, which basically you're moving, you're walking, you're moving sideways, you're backing up, you're moving forward while you're engaging the target. And I've never heard of that. I mean, what good does that do?
So they haven't even done static, like, silhouette, like target training, right? They haven't even done that.
They haven't even done that.
They haven't even fired their weapon at that capacity in 2 years.
Unless they go do it on their own. And I know there's some that do go shoot on their own.
I would imagine there's some that feel like, man, that are self-motivated, that are
that know it's not right.
It's not right.
Yeah, you've got to be shooting.
I like to think there's a few folks there that are taking care of
right.
That
I mean, some of them go out and buy their own ammo just to shoot their gun. I mean, I can assure you that there's probably never been a police shooting where the officer wasn't moving some and the suspect wasn't moving some.
Only in movies.
Yeah, I mean, so this is, I don't want to say pathetic, but that's the word for it. You should be shooting several times. You should be doing qualifications at least 2 times a year. And you do, one is always a night shoot, and one is a daytime shoot. And that way you get used to shooting in darkness, you get used to shooting in light.
Experience the different elements of firing your weapon.
Yeah, I mean, there's proof that officers in shootouts have literally, when they drop their magazine, their first instinct was to pick up their magazine after they dropped it, because that's what you do in training. You shoot when you drop your magazine, you finish shooting, the first thing you do is you reach down and pick up your magazine.
Right. Well, that's because your training
that's because that's what happens, because that's what you do at every range session. So you should be practicing moving while you're shooting. You should be practicing going prone while you're shooting, to shoot over, around objects, because that's what's going to happen in real life. You take cover behind a tree or whatever, you're shooting around the tree.
Right.
We used to all practice on shooting over and around the shield. So not SWAT, I mean, that's a SWAT thing as well, but patrol has to learn to do that as well, because that's your only way sometimes to get to a downed officer.
Right.
Is to go in, and you're shooting right over the side of their, the person's holding the shield. He's being shot around and over the top of by the people that are following, whether it's with a shotgun or a handgun. And there's a lot of drills that you have to do to practice, and that's not done. I mean, there's officers here that have probably, I would guarantee you, have never shot around or over the shield, had never carried the shield while shooting. And I mean, that's a whole different ball game, because you've got the shield covering your body and you're still shooting around it, and you got to train on those things. And if you're only going to the range once every 13 or 14 months, I don't know how you're not going to, when the time comes, when what hits the fan, you're not going to be ready.
No, and that's kind of, I guess that adds to the list of what the hell that we've talked about in the last. That's our what the hell moment of the day, I guess, for the last several podcasts, is the lack of training. Last time it was the no chase policy, and they don't even train in that anymore, or pit maneuvers. Before that, it was, they don't really do any active shooter training. And here we are, just basic range training, which is like, I mean, that's basic police academy stuff. Basic police, 101. I mean, you go to the range, you shoot, you're proficient. Once you can put some tight groupings in a static, non-moving target, then you move to you know, an obstacle target where you're moving your feet, you're moving your hands. You get pop-up targets.
Right.
You know, you get pop-up targets that are holding a hostage. Don't shoot the hostage. I mean, you know, there's all this specialized training that's imperative because only in movies do the bad guy and the lawman stand face to face in the street.
Right.
Nobody moves.
Right.
In a Western, but this isn't that. This isn't a Western. This is real life. And
these are, you're shooting while you're running.
You're shooting while you're running, and those
yeah.
bullets are going God knows where at that point,
Yeah.
unless you're trained at it, because your feet and your hands and your eyes need to be on the same page.
I mean, I could tell you right now that there's at least if they went to the range today, there would be officers that would not be able to qualify with their weapon.
I'm sure not.
It's because they just don't do it enough, and that's their life safety. You know, that weapon, and if they're not proficient in it, you know, we're going to end up with losing officers. And that's on us,
right? Because
if we're not giving them the training and making sure they're proficient, and it's not hard, you can take people that not everybody's going to be a great shot. I mean, that's just common sense. But with enough training,
you can improve and be more than adequate.
Oh yeah,
and safe for the public.
Absolutely, because we don't need bullets flying around, you know, and
having dinner and a window goes shot out in the restaurant. No, you know, I mean, I've been shooting since I was a kid, like most folks listening to this, and I've got all kinds of marksman accolades through the years and specialized training. And if I didn't shoot for 3 years, and I shoot frequently out here, I'm still a hell of a shot.
Right.
But if I didn't shoot for 3 years, I think the safest, you know, target downrange would be the target I'm shooting at. I probably would suck.
Right.
Because it's like anything else. I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it. You know, that's it. I mean, it's not like riding a bicycle.
It's common sense.
It's a lot more technical than that.
Right. You have to practice, and you have to make it stressful.
Right.
While you're doing these shootings, you know, and whether it's somebody yelling on a loudspeaker or just making noise, you know, making it realistic. And you know, we used to go through shoot houses and things like that, so everything was you're moving and shooting and moving from one room to the next, you know, and just and you have to practice that stuff. And if you've gone a year without there being a qualification,
I mean, it's an annual requirement, a national standard. I mean, it shouldn't be this complicated.
Right, but we're past a year. I mean, so.
I mean, there'll be somebody will get a slap on the wrist for that pretty soon, I'm sure. Because the compliance board will catch it, I'm sure.
Well,
somebody will.
We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
Guess it all depends on what you turn in.
So you tell me, Mike, once you win and we go up there, we're going to find that the firearms training is a old Nintendo with they're playing Duck Hunt.
I don't think it's that bad, but right now they're not doing anything, so maybe that's the best they've got. But we'll change that, and we will do. I mean,
they deserve better,
right? You can't go shoot at the end of June or 1st of July every year. What happens when it's comes January and February, and you got to shoot? Well, that's a whole different situation because now you're cold. You may have gloves on that you're shooting with. The temperature plays a role, you know, when you're freezing cold and you're shaking, you know, from the cold, and then the adrenaline rush, you know, that makes a huge difference. So you got to practice.
Yeah, practice in the cold.
You got to practice in the cold. You practice in the warmth. You practice in the cold. You practice in light. You practice in dark, because those are the situations that you have to be.
This is where you live. This is where you're a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, and I know they've got new guns coming in, and I know they've got. The red dot sights on them, and that's great. My issue is if you can't find your front sight to shoot at the range, that red dot is not that big of a difference. You still have to find the dot and line it up with where you want to go shoot. That's no different than finding a front sight.
You still also have to practice with the weapon.
Right.
If we picked one up out of a box and never fired it, the
You
first
give
3
me
or 4
put
shots
a
would
red
be,
dot on there.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to adjust to that.
I personally wouldn't want one, and when I win the selection, I'm not going to have a red dot on my firearm because I don't want one.
I don't rely on that.
I know that that could get bumped around.
Battery dies.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with that, and yes, while it does help some people, I practice enough with with a pistol, I know how to use my front sights and do sight alignment, so I'm not worried about it, you know, and I don't want one other thing, you know, that I have to worry about. I know those front sights are not going to move if I fall down or something. That front sight's still going to be
drop the firearm, right.
It's still going to be there, as opposed to that red dot being. I mean, you think if it just moves a half millimeter, that's not much at 5 feet when you're shooting. But if you're shooting at 25 yards, now all of a sudden you're off several inches. Yeah, I don't like it.
I think that's a skill that's being lost in a lot of things, from vehicles to aircraft to you name it. Technology is making it easier, and we're losing our fundamentals. So newer generations coming into a field, like when I was in fire academy years ago, and other trainings, and subsequently even law enforcement trainings, and it was you started with the fundamentals.
Right.
I mean, this is how we did it back then, and that wasn't to do we walked uphill to school in snow, uphill both ways kind of story for the old times.
Right.
It was giving us a foundation because they knew technology was coming, so we could use both. And if you're only trained on lasers, optics, or red dots, then where's your skill proficiency when that fails you?
Right.
Where's your skill proficiency when it gets damaged? You got to be able to. It's like a future generation is only going to know how to let their car drive.
Yeah, and I think one way around that is if we will shoot enough that we will probably, you will have to qualify with your regular sights as well as with the red dot.
Right.
If you're carrying a red dot, you still need to be able to qualify, because what's going to happen if the battery does die? Or if it malfunctions, you need to have that ability to acquire the front sight on your firearm and put the round where you want it to go.
Right. And I think being proficient at lots of different calibers and different firearms is probably good training for them.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things I want to do, we carried MP5s on our SWAT team, and so you don't know, those are the 9 millimeters, right. And they had the single shot 3-round burst and full automatic on them. So that's what I trained on, and I think here their SWAT teams all using the AR style weapon, and I don't believe they are submachine gun. And if you've ever shot a submachine gun, and we always kept them on 3-round burst, and to make sure we were able to
control it,
drop the target, and put our rounds right where we wanted to go. So that would be something I'd probably be looking at too, is acquiring some for our SWAT team, and even on shift, our patrol supervisors probably to carry a submachine gun in their unit as well as their rifle. That's what we did, and that's what I feel comfortable with, and I think it's necessary that we don't get outgunned. And we're dealing with some hardened criminals
with some heavy firepower,
and we can't go into it with less firepower than what they have.
And bear in mind too that some of these hardened criminals have military backgrounds.
Yes.
I mean, we love our veterans. Unfortunately, there's always a handful of folks that go astray, but they still have that training.
Yeah.
Some of them are former law enforcement.
Yeah.
Some of them are trained, and some of them belong to militias. I mean, they have specialized trainings, and they'll have
they're doing more. They do more training than what our department does. So
and we need to change that, because these folks that work, our officers here in our community, they need that. They need somebody to back them up and train, get them the right training, so they can feel they know what they're lacking. They're not oblivious, right? I mean,
they're well aware.
They're probably depressed by it almost, because they're not getting the support that they want. They're good people, okay? They'd probably be even better officers once they're fully trained properly. And they, let's face it. I mean, you have more self-respect when you're at the top of your game.
Right.
We need to give them that boost to put them
right
at the top
now.
of their game.
Everything is they don't have discretion, and officers have to have discretion. What they're worried about? Okay, you can't be worried about as things are going down in the blink of an eye. Is my department going to back me on this? Am I going to end up in prison if I make this choice? those are things that
they never should have to worry
they
about.
shouldn't have to worry about.
Shouldn't be in their
Right,
minds.
they should be able to go do their job, make split-second decisions, knowing that they made the right choice for the right reason, and the department's going to back them. And right now, they don't feel that, and so they are second-guessing everything before they do it, which is going to get an officer either hurt or killed.
Certainly would.
And that cannot be in the back of your mind when, if you fear for your life, you have to be able to take action and not think of, oh boy, am I going to go to jail if I shoot this guy? If you're justified in using deadly force, in your mind, if you feel that way, you got to know that the department's going to back you. And also realize that, we may be on the same scene together, you and I, and I may feel my life's threatened and make a decision. Well, you were at a different angle and your life wasn't threatened because the gun wasn't being pointed in your direction. And so you got to take into account everybody that was on scene and what their personal, why they did what they did. If two people say, well, I didn't shoot because my life wasn't threatened, but the third one goes, well, the gun was pointed coming towards me, so I felt that. You got to understand that, not everybody's going to feel the same way at every scene, and they're all going to see it different,
I mean, I think that was where it comes into, if there's a weapon, right, drawn, then your life is it's automatically implied that your life is at risk.
Right.
You don't know if it's loaded or not.
Right.
Okay, so, if there's, let's say it's called a firearm. We'll go for the only one the one that's the biggest, issue right now is somebody drew on an officer, the officer shot him, he died, now he's under investigation in Chicago. This happened in Chicago, which is a war zone in itself, right? And that cop got taken off of duty, which is normal, and he has to go see the shrink, and then he goes and talks to, the internal affairs investigator. They do, instead of clearing him though, they're pending charges. I'm like, the kid pulled a gun on him.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
And that's...
I don't really give it...
That causes more mental health problems. Right. The stress that we're putting on our officers ends up, again, I know we discussed this before, the mental health of officers right now is very poor.
Suicides are up.
Suicides are way up.
Substance abuse is up. Divorces are
domestic
up. Domestic violence, right. No, that's a big weight to carry.
You got to have your officers' backs, and you need to have programs in place for those officers. And I know, we will have officers that are trained in critical incident debriefings and things like that. We'll have our own team, our crisis intervention teams as well, that will work with officers who have been involved in very, very stressful calls,
right?
And make sure that they're doing okay. And again, we'll have some chaplains involved with the department as well to be able to get and make sure that our officers' mental health is being taken care of, because really if they're having problems at work, those problems go home with them quite often. And so we need to get that addressed. I want to bring up another issue. I know I talked about having the reserve program to help alleviate a lot of our patrol problems, where we've got our patrol shifts that are, you've got 2 or 3 officers sitting in the hospitals with inmates. You've got officers taking inmates to courts in other jurisdiction or transporting them to a doctor's office, and pretty soon the next thing you know, you've only got 2 or 3 officers on day shift that are out on patrol. And that was one of the reasons I was talking about, having reserve officers that could deal with that. And somebody asked me, what about, how are you going to work with the union on that? I've been around long enough. I understand the union contracts, and we're going to be working very closely hand in hand with the police union here. And we're going to be asking for things, they're going to be asking for things. I know how the contracts work, but we're going to be on the side, and we're going to be doing things that they need to help them. And I think that the union will agree, you know, when they see that I'm not trying to take overtime away from them, you know, that overtime is all going to be paid. They're going to get first choice at those things, you know, and the reserve program is more to help, you know, with the things that they don't want to do, because nobody wants to go sit at the hospital. They can't even fill the events that people call in and say we need extra security for, you know, and what happens is when they say, yeah, we'll provide officers for this, and then nobody signs up for it because they don't want to work any overtime. You know, when they're done right now, they want to be done.
Right.
You know, they don't want to come in on their days off and work. You know, they're burnout mentally, and so nobody signs up for events. Well, then what they do is they take patrol officers off shift and fill those events. So I believe there's a concert coming up. Well, if nobody signs up for the event, the overtime, well, then they just pull from patrol off officers who are working to fill that, and now you just took off people that are able to respond to calls. So yeah, we'll work with the union. We'll work hand in hand with them, and you know, I'm a big supporter of what the union's trying to get done, and we will be. It's not going to be like I said, you know, when I talk to the union, hey, when it comes time to for your collective bargaining agreements, things like that, we're going to be sitting on the same side of the table. You know, I'll be going to bat for you, and you know, but in the same time, you know, if there's some things that we need to change in the writing to get the reserve program in there or whatever, we'll come to agreements on it. You know, we'll work hand in hand to get things done. So it's not going to be me versus them. It's going to be us, you know, working together to get them what they need and make our community safer.
Let's talk about the union for a second. What's the relationship, as far as you know right now, with the union and the current administration?
I would say it's very, very strained. Yeah.
So the union, and is the union president a active member of the Butte-Silver Bow Sheriff's Department?
Yes, he is. Okay. He's a patrol supervisor.
Okay. Okay, and you know, but obviously, so he has a different point of view for the direction that things are going, and he's more along the lines of where you're aligned with, right?
Well, I don't communicate with him a lot. Obviously, I've had communications with him, or I wouldn't have been at their police union.
Right.
And he's a great guy. I mean, I respect him, you know, and I know we'll work together well. But because of the retaliation that goes on within the department, I know he's not well liked.
Okay.
So I don't engage him. I don't reach out to him, only because he's got enough headaches. And I hear this from other people within the department that he's got enough headaches. I don't want to cause him any more headaches than what he's already got. So to be honest, you know, I spoke with him about when I met with the union, and I probably could reach out to him. That wouldn't be a problem. That's not something that I like I said, I don't want any officers getting in trouble.
Right.
For
hostile work environment.
Right. You know, and so no, I don't engage him. I'm sure we're on the same page. I know that he's trying to do the best he can for the union members, so I'm sure that he supports the direction I'm going. But again, it's not. I don't want anybody getting in trouble for associating with me, so I leave him out of it.
Well, I mean, if there is that level of vindictive office play, let's say, that's unfortunate that those men and women have to experience that right now, and kind of goes to show you. I guess it kind of leads way of why things are so chaotic there. You got turmoil on the street, behind the badge, and behind the desk. So,
well, it's everybody against third floor up there is how it's
which is no way to go to work every day and put your life on the line.
Right. I mean, the only way the officers ever make it to the third floor or see people from the third floor is if they are in trouble.
Right.
So if you're going to be
called to the carpet,
you're in trouble. Shit, I mean, there's officers that have been there a couple of years now that will tell you that they've never spoken to the sheriff since the day they were sworn into office or sworn in as officers. They've doesn't come to briefings. He doesn't communicate with the officers. They've never spoken to him since that day. That's a problem. And you should be there. You should be in the briefings. You should be knowing what's going on. You should be communicating with your officers. You should. I'm going to be out there with my officers, and I'm going to be seen with them. I'll do ride-alongs with them, just to, not in like, hey, I'm looking to see what you're doing wrong or you're doing right.
Right.
It's talk to me. Let me know, what's going on out here, what you guys need, what can we do to help you? And I want to get to know them. I want to get to know them. I want to get to know their families. I want to get to know. I'm a firm believer in family. The police department, it is a family, and when you retire, that you still are a part of that family. It's when you get out of that. A lot of times there's some big depression that takes place from officers who retire because they miss that they miss their family. And I think it's said, statistically it's been proven, like after 6 months, you're no longer, people that you worked with, you're no longer part of that family anymore because you don't work there, and you stop hearing from them, and you lose that, and you start getting. So we're gonna have programs where we do dinners or we do officer appreciation,
retirement dinner,
and we're always gonna invite we'll always invite the retirees, and so they'll always be welcome at the department and
not forgotten.
We're not forgotten, because they did pave the way, for all these officers. So we'll have things like that we'll always include our past officers.
I think that with your approach of being transparent and visible to your officers is going to be a beyond welcome change when they realize that you're not there to hawk over them like Big Brother. You're there to see, get to know them and lead from the front. You can't lead from the rear. It's impossible. And you got to lead by example. If you're invisible, then you're not leading.
Right.
You have to be visible to lead. It's impossible to be an effective leader and invisible or even hiding in the rear. You got to be up front.
Have you ever seen the movie We Were Soldiers?
Yeah, great movie actually.
Yeah. So with Lieutenant, he became General Hal Moore, but when he's first meeting
great
with
book too.
Yeah, we were soldiers once and young. So when he's first meeting with his new officers, and I'm not talking about police, I'm talking about his captains. When he first got introduced to them, he made the comment that he and the sergeant major would always be the first on the field and the last off of it, because to inspire your men and to know what's going on, you have to be with them where the metal meets the meat. And where the soldiers are getting hurt, you have to be there. And great line, and that was how he led his men was, I'm always going to be there with you. I'm gonna be in front of you, not behind you, and we'll do this together. And that is the way that I'm going to run the department. Is I'm going to be out there with them, and they're going to know that I've got their backs.
And if you watch the movie or read the book, those of you listening, you'll see that he was there in the battlefield the entire time with his men.
They actually ordered him off the battlefield, and he refused.
And he refused, right?
Yeah.
And so that's leadership. And that's what Mike's trying to articulate and say here is, he's going to be that guy. That's why he's going to be very visible. Because again, I'll say it 100 times, whether you're running a Fortune 500 lemonade stand, an automotive manufacturer, an army platoon, or a law enforcement agency, you cannot lead from the back. It'll just turn into a CF. It's a fiasco.
Yep.
You have to be a visible leader to inspire the men and women that work for you and inspire the community to continue to trust you as the person that they appoint by election. You're elected to enforce the laws that the community has voted for through their local representatives and through the Senate of the state and the United States to enforce and hold those laws. And then when you got to go back every couple of years and say, I need more money because cost of living goes up, cost of salaries and benefits and equipment goes up. And that community will go out of its way to say, yes, give them what they need for police, give them what they need for fire, when they're getting what they asked for in return.
Right.
You're upholding the laws that the community, the people have asked you to uphold. When you're not delivering that and your department's a train wreck, your officers are demoralized, you don't have their back, they're terrified of doing their job, they don't want to go to prison and lose everything that they've worked for and their families. I mean, yeah, no kidding, who would want to do
Right.
that? I mean, it's literally set up to fail, and that's why it's failing.
Right.
All those things I just said is the reason why it's failing. There's not just one thing, there's many things, and those many things have got to get right real quick, or it's just going to continue to decline, and then it just is more expensive and more difficult to climb back out of that hole the longer you wait. It's like debt. The deeper you let the debt get, the harder it is to climb out of it. This is just a moral and ethical debt that's getting deeper by the day.
And we've got to act quick
Right.
to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that can, well, the turning point, we got the election coming up, Mike.
Yeah, it's 90 some days away now.
It's going quick,
Jeez.
man. It's already August.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And early voting. The ballots have to be in by October 29th.
Yeah.
And everybody just needs to just mark that little box next to Mike Gage.
That's right.
And get these wheels in perpetual motion here. We'll start getting out of that debt we're talking about. And then, of course, the election day, November 5th.
Right. Yeah. So we've got big plans coming up. So we've got a lot of events. We're going to start really doing the door-to-door campaign coming up, and we've got some back-to-school events that we're going to be doing, and we've got a little surprise for our teachers going back to work. So we'll
Very
be
nice.
we're going to be campaigning hard. We're going to make a big run here in the next couple months, and hopefully in November it's all going to pay off, and we'll start cleaning up our town and making it safe here again. And that's the goal, is that people feel safe, not worried about all their belongings being stolen out of their vehicles and their houses while they're gone. And I mean, people think about that every day, and that shouldn't happen.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't have to come out of your front door in the morning just to see if your truck got broken into
Right.
and tools were stolen. That's insane.
Right.
Or your car got the window busted because somebody's looking for money or a purse or something somebody left in. It's just ridiculous. It really is. There's no way to live. That's an unacceptable quality of life, in my opinion.
Well, you turn a blind eye to it long enough, and
It becomes normal.
and then it becomes normal.
But not for me.
Right.
Well, that's the thing is, Mike's got a big job to do, and it's a community effort. And so, they say back the blue. I think everybody needs to back the Gage. He's going to need all the support once he's elected, and I'm very confident he will be. I think overall, the people want change. Everybody I've talked to, basically, you don't have to pry it out of them. You don't have to set them up to answer the questions. They're just like, oh my God, we need to fix this. We need to change. I mean, it's like it's on the tip of their tongues. I think people are just a little emotionally beat down after all the years of, I'm gonna call the police, and there's no follow through. So it's kind of like the people in the town are whistling past the graveyard. They're afraid because there's no follow through,
Right.
but they don't want to show it. So they just keep on whistling past the
I mean,
graveyard.
if you call the police and you're sitting there, I've got these guys on video camera. We can identify them. We can, we've got them breaking in, and then you're told, well, that's not enough evidence.
Right. That's
Well,
crap.
what I mean, 20 years ago, we didn't even have this. We would have loved this type of evidence.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
That's
back in
60%
the
of your case
early
right there, yeah.
90s and stuff. Our whole deal, we just had to prove they were there. Well, heck, now you can prove it because they're right there
It's
on
even
camera,
time-stamped
right?
on the
And now it's like, well, that's not enough evidence. I'm like, I don't know what you need then, because
held them at gunpoint. I mean,
20 years ago, 30 years ago, that would have been plenty of evidence, and
it still is.
Yeah, I
Most
know
places.
that, and,
Most places. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're not going to continue to kick the can down the road about the local, administration issues with our own community law enforcement. But just vote for Mike in November, October 29th, all the mail-in ballots, and then of course Election Day, November 5th. Vote Mike in there so he can start turning this ship around. He's gonna have a long road, a lot of work to do. He's very high energy, very highly motivated, very passionate about this. Doesn't need this job. He wants the job, and that's the type of people we should have elected. Ones that want it. They're not looking to expand their financial portfolio or their political ventures. It's a passion project, and this is the type of guy that we would want for to wear that sheriff uniform for many years to come. So get out there and back the Gage. Vote for Mike Gage, and that's it for the week, buddy.
We'll see you next Friday.
Yep. You all have a great weekend. Enjoy the fair and all the events going on.
Right, and to the officers that are out there working this weekend, stay safe, and big changes will be coming your way.
Yep, and get to the gun range on your own time.
Right.
The life you save may be your own.
That's absolutely right.
So get out there. All right, till next Friday, everybody have a great weekend.
We'll see you then.
Take care.